And I think Xbox saw this coming like a decade ago because they started doing the Game Pass thing, right? And now
Mhm.
you have now Xbox is primarily a software on your computer rather than a console brand.
Phil Spencer, who is the head of Xbox, says we will see the quote future of Xbox in an event update next week. After there have been lots of reports that they may be getting out of the hardware business and just going all third party and multi-platform, which
Ooh.
Mm.
that's the most batshit crazy thing I think I've like ever heard. Here's his tweet: says, "We're listening and we heard and we hear you. We've been planning a business update of event for the next week, where we look forward to sharing more details with you about our vision for the future of Xbox."
Well,
And
Xbox is my least favorite console. So if they did go that third party route, I wouldn't even be that mad at it, to be honest. I haven't played my Xbox One X, whatever the Series X. Can't keep up with the names. I haven't played that in over a year. It's like, yeah, I especially when you can play most of their games on PC anyway.
this is really interesting in that when you think about this, you're like, how fucking stupid. But then when you think about it, you go, oh, it actually makes kind of sense, right?
Yeah, it
Because
does.
when you have, if they do pull back and they say, okay, we're no longer going to have an Xbox. We're going to put our games on PC. We're going to put our games on the PlayStation. We're going to put our
Mhm.
games on the Switch, right? To a lesser extent, to the Switch. And the idea is, it's just like our strategy: cast the net as wide as you possibly can, right? Catch as many fish as you possibly can. Why does that work for Xbox? Well, they now own all of these developers. They own
Right.
all these games, all these IPs. They own Activision. They own all the, and now instead of just hoping that they sell an Xbox at a loss, because
Yep.
really you're selling these consoles at a loss. Now they can sell way more games, which is insane to think about. But on top of this, the writing is kind of on the wall for this when you really think about this, because just last week we had this story about Xbox reportedly shutting down physical game release divisions, right? So they're laying off all these people, and they could potentially make this move, which is, yeah, it's really, really bizarre. As Augustus points out, this plan has been in motion for a while now. Um, I know this, like on the surface, it's very shocking because for the last 20 plus years, it's been Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft going at it. Who will reign supreme? And to think that Xbox and Microsoft are just going to bow out from the first party side of things and you'll no longer have an Xbox is really, really bizarre.
Mhm.
So I think I actually thinks it makes a lot of sense though, because before, if you go back to really far to like the Sega Nintendo days and then the early Sony days, the differences between the consoles were very extreme, right?
Right.
Different mediums for the games, different capabilities, the architecture, the programming, it was all different, right? So you kind of had to make games for one platform or another, and porting them was kind of a job, right? But I think starting around like the PS3 era, you got you got consoles that were more or less in line with their capabilities with regular PCs. And nowadays, the Switch being an obvious exception, like a PS5 is just a PC, an Xbox Series X is just a PC, right? So it seems like you're in a situation now where the hardware differences they no longer necessitate you making your own platform. And I think Xbox saw this coming like a decade ago because they started doing the Game Pass thing, right? And now
Mhm.
now Xbox is primarily a software on your computer rather than a console brand. So I think their game plan was we'll still build consoles for people who don't have really good PCs, but if you do have really good PC, you can install the Xbox game software. You can buy games through our online platform. And so they just want to get you into the Xbox ecosystem where you buy, it doesn't matter what platform you have, PC or sometimes you can stream it from a tablet. You can do it on your console. As long as you're buying from Microsoft, they're happy with that, right? And then they have all the interconnectivity. So like if you have an Xbox and you're playing games on that, and then 2 years later you buy a PC, all your games transfer over, all your save files transfer over. So I think this was kind of coming, is that they were expanding out because they knew that unless they did something drastically different with the hardware like Nintendo does, they have to somehow bring in the PC element because everyone plays games on PC now. Um,
Mhm.
And it's like this same conversation's been happening on the Sony side of things too, where like PlayStation 5 fans are like, where's all the exclusive games? They're all going on Steam. Like,
Right.
Right.
there's no exclusives anymore, you know? So the only people who are actually the only company maintaining a purpose, a specific purpose for their hardware is Nintendo. And it's because they're doing something drastically different with it.
Right. And it's so funny because Nintendo's thought of as like the weakest of from a power perspective, but they're just offering a different value value proposition to their consumers. They're offering this, plug in and play, easy, fun games while still having the hardcore games, but they're still Nintendo games. I've said this a million times. Nintendo sells Nintendo games. That's what they do. That's all they're worried about. Microsoft sells gamer games, and that's a little broader. But I wouldn't say Microsoft sells Microsoft games and Sony sells Sony games. And it looks like Microsoft could potentially be selling to Sony because there's a reporting that Gears of War, which is just insane to think about. Gears of War, Sea of Thieves of all things, Sea of Thieves, which was like the big exclusive. These are games that could potentially go to PlayStation with this new strategy. Gears of War is being considered. Grubb said on a Game Mess Mornings being added. It's not a guarantee, but there's a proposal for it potentially happening.
Right.
Which, holy moly, that would just be the craziest thing in the world.